Welcome back, everybody. So I have the distinct pleasure of sitting here today with James McCarter.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you for sitting here and letting me chat you up for a little while. So one thing that I want to point out, first of all, is we're with a Boise Entrepreneur Week celebrity right now. He is the grand champion of Boise Entrepreneur Week from last year. So tell me a little bit about the pitch competition last year and the prize and how that all worked.
I mean, it was crazy because I had zero expectations. I had like when they were giving out the awards, I didn't have any friends or family come down. I'm like, it's probably nothing. And it was. I don't consider myself the pitch winner. I won the Connetic Ventures $100,000 safe investment, and that was kind of derived from some pre-screening that they'd done with their AI bot. It was like a chat bot that I had to talk to and get like a brain scan for like 2 hours. And I just asked the most intimate details of my life and how I would respond to things. And then they went over, the product and the pitch and everything else. And the day before, I had just this little inkling, like, what if, as I'd been talking to Chris at Connetic, and I was kind of going, well, maybe he would have been a little bit more forthright. So the night of the awards, my wife was working and everything. All my friends were actually, at her work. And when I won, I was speechless, absolutely blown away. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time. I mean, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit. And going up on stage, I kind of don't even remember what I said. It was great that the guys that were there to hand me the check, and then when I got off the stage, Ed Vasco was standing there from BSU and gave me a big hug, and it was surreal. It was honestly, I've done some pretty cool things in my life. I've gone and rang the bell on the NASDAQ with my last company, and that was a better moment for me than that, because it was,
it's like this culmination of all of this work that you've done,
and as an entrepreneur, like there's a little suffering that goes into it. And it was a validation of, like, it wasn't all for naught, and I'm not crazy either. So.
Well, and you say, there's some suffering, right? Like, one of my unofficial taglines at the VEA is that entrepreneurship can be torture sometimes, and it's our job to make it a little less tortury.
Yeah.
So.
I like that. That's a solid mission right there. I know I've told you personally that when somebody tells me they're going to start a business, the first thing I do is try to talk them out of it.
Yep. And actually, that's something that I stole from your bag of tricks, and now I do that all the time.
And if you can't be talked out of it, then I'll do everything I can, right? Yeah. But if you can be talked out of it, you probably should be.
Yep.
Because it's just not the right time. Like, you got to be real about what it is. And I'll be honest, I'd gone through it. This is kind of I was the first employee at another startup, but this one was, we started just before COVID. Mm-hmm. It's been crazy. It's been tough, and we still pulled it through, at least to this point. Knock on wood.
Before we jump into kind of what your company does, correct me if I'm wrong. That $100,000 investment from that company, didn't that turn into another, it led to another opportunity?
Yeah, it's kind of funny too, and it was actually a little sweet poetic justice that we ended up getting a match for that safe from Capital 11, and why I say it's a little bit of poetic justice is I did a pitch for them about 3 months earlier, and they turned me down, and to their credit, they came to me after and were like, look, I don't think we gave you enough time to really understand what it is, and didn't maybe give you a fair shake. And I thought that was really awesome. But yeah, that really propelled us forward. And then we got a great contract with a large conglomerate over the last year. So here we are, still rolling.
I think that says a lot about an organization, like to be willing to kind of like to come to you afterwards and admit a mistake, right?
Agreed.
To be able to say like, hey, listen, we probably didn't handle this maybe the way that we should have. And here we are, cards on the table.
Yeah, and I mean, people put their faith in me, that I don't take that lightly. And so, I mean, it had a profound impact on me that, you know, the people that have, you know, we've got it here by a lot of hard work, but a lot of people behind us that believed in us, believed in me. I mean, that means everything to me.
Absolutely.
And I hope I can, you know, repay them by making them a lot of money.
Well, so we've talked about the wins, right? So tell me a little bit about your company, about what you do, and then I think if we've got some time, like dig into some of the, like, because everybody thinks like, okay, win, 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 win. I'm sure there's been like some really rough times too.
Oh, dear God, yes.
Kind of some losses and things that you've had to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a cyber intelligence and analytics company. We focus heavily on cyber risk quantification. So really what that means is we're able to take an in-depth accounting of where your gaps are in your cyber program and basically quantify that so that, you know, in terms of financial risk, so that we can look at it and go, look, you have, say, $500,000 in risk. If you do X, Y, and Z, it'll be, you know, half of that, and it'll cost you, you know, 50 grand to implement. So it really is an ROI type tool. It makes it very clear where we should be spending our time, money, effort, resources. On top of that, we do cyber operations training for practitioners. You know, we also do some services for organizations that are like, okay, you found all these gaps, great. Now, can you fix them? So that's kind of the follow-on to what we do. But yeah, I mean, follow that on. I mean, COVID was crazy. We knew we were going to build this from the beginning, and like money got so tight, and we weren't really customer facing at that point. So we had to scramble and figure out like how are we going to weather the storm. Yeah. And I'll be honest, like there were so many times that I was like, I just, you know, working 12-hour days and everything. But, you know, I had one employee that's been with me since the beginning, and he had faith in me, right? I had some angel investors, and they put their faith in me. And you know, what I told my wife from the beginning is, as long as there's something for me to do, then I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to, I can deal with the concept of failing as long as I did everything in my power and I didn't quit. Like it was, you get to a point where it's like beyond my control. But yeah, a lot of times in COVID, I had, you know, a couple early employees come and go that, you know, kind of left us high and dry in some things, cost us a lot of money. And then, yeah, I've had, like, the financial concerns are crippling, you know, because going that long without a salary, and so having to scrimp and save and do everything else I can, it was dark. And so there's been some lows, but some unbelievable highs.
Well, obviously there's a lot in there, but if there's one thing that I think I would pull out of there that I think everybody should really hear is like believing, like having somebody believe in you can be kind of a game changer, right? So if there's somebody in your life that's like going through the struggle, going through the hustle, and you believe in what they're doing, let them know.
Absolutely.
Like, because it can mean the world to them. So
absolutely.
Yeah.